All right, all right, all right, all right. This is very important. I'm not sure if you guys remember it, but over a week ago, there was a story that I reported on about an assistant principal who was literally killed, shot 7 times in his apartment complex. Abner Joseph, was an assistant principal in a high school in Chicago. And this is a tragedy, but I am right here with his siblings, Jay and Gianna. And Jay and Gianna, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking the time to fight for justice. It's always, always the perfect time to do what is absolutely right. And I send my condolences to you and your entire family as you all mourn and have to go through such a tragic experience. We all know what's going on in Chicago, but we always think that what's happening in Chicago is just subjected to, the thugs or people who live in the ghetto. But this right here was in a high rise in Chicago. This right here was literally upper middle class black man in Chicago, educated black man in Chicago. And it's not okay. So thank you for being here, Jay and Gianna. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So the first thing, I think I'm going to ask you all a few questions. We won't have you long because we respect your time. And I know that you all are on the grounds in Chicago making things, trying to get the answers that are necessary. But the people want to know, can you tell me, you all know Abner very personally. Who was Abner Joseph?
So Abner, he was first he was a teacher. He had a really good rapport with the students, a really good rapport with any job he worked at. First, he started in Atlanta, and then he started in Atlanta as a teacher, and then he was promoted as an AP, and then he transitioned to Chicago about 14 months ago as an AP here at Intrinsic Schools at a high school.
Okay. Awesome. I'm from Chicago, born and raised. So I got roots both in Atlanta and Chicago. So how ironic here. But I think that I read this story and I was automatically 100% moved by it and upset and hurt by it because, like I mentioned, my father is from Chicago. I was born in Chicago, born and raised, and my father was killed in Chicago when I was 12 years old. So the violence and what's happening in the city of Chicago is ongoing for many, many years. And I do not take it lightly when Black men are just killed as some kind of casualty. It will never be okay. So the one thing that I want to know, and I know a lot of people want to know the same thing, is what happened? How did this day come from what you know?
So from what we know, it's kind of vague. Like that's the whole point of us being here. Like we're seeking answers. We want answers. And the investigation is still ongoing. So, it's kind of limited until what we can actually, know. But I can tell you personally what I know. Like since I had got the call, like Thursday, I got the call and they informed me that my brother was deceased. Mm-hmm. And I did talk to the detective. The detective did tell me like there was some type of disturbance in, my brother's high rise. My brother stays in the 29th floor. And the killer, his name is Garrett Smith. He stays 4 doors down from my brother. And from what the detective said, there was a call, a wellness check placed. They called 911. The residents called 911 for a wellness check. And the cops didn't take it seriously the first time. And they only came when my brother got murdered. That's when they came. But my brother was murdered on the 48th floor. From what the detective said, Garrett Smith took it upon himself to shoot my brother. He shot and killed him. So he shot him 7 times. And one of the wounds is in his ring finger. So, I'm not a forensic, but that tells me like my brother had his hands out when he was shot. Mm-hmm. Also, my brother had a robe and a boxers on. That's what he had. Robe, boxers, and a pair of socks. So, Garrett Smith the murderer who killed my brother, he said he feared for his life. I don't see how you fear for your life and use deadly force when my brother didn't have no weapon on him. All he had was a robe and a boxer. So like the story that, you know, the media saying and the detective, I know the investigation is still ongoing. It just doesn't make sense. That's not my brother's character to actually go and, you know, fight someone or, you know, just get into an altercation. So that's why we out here in Chicago. And, you know, that's why, like, we call the CPD, we call the state's attorney office just to get some answers. And, like, we've just been having, you know, we've been having, getting the runaround pretty much.
And so. I just want to add, as a teacher, as anyone that's in, you know, education, I'm an educator myself. Everyone knows that as you are trained to diffuse situations. So as my brother stated, you know, before, I don't see how they're trying to paint the picture that he's the one that initiated the you know, the altercation. It just doesn't make any sense.
But even then, like, if my brother was so-called the aggressor, that doesn't merit him to be shot 7 times.
Right.
He didn't even have deadly force. He had no weapon on him, just a robe and a boxer. So,
absolutely. So I just want to deal with a few facts that you mentioned here. So the fact is, your brother was murdered at the Legacy at Millennial Park in Chicago, the high rise in Chicago, the Legacy at Millennial Park. He was murdered there. Have you all been able to get any video footage, audio footage of any altercation that happened in the high rise?
No.
As
as we stated, the investigation is still ongoing. So we've been having some issues obtaining those items.
Okay. My next question is, so basically what you're telling me is that your brother and then Garrett Smith, the man who murdered your brother, Garrett Smith, they were pretty much neighbors. Have they had a history of fighting one another or anything of that nature in the past that you know of?
Not from what we could recount. Like, no.
And your brother has been in Chicago. Do you know how long has your brother been living at the high rise?
14 months.
14. Wow. Which means that people know your brother. They know him. They know his character. And if he was a problematic person, unfortunately, you don't stay somewhere for 14 months if you're a problem in a high rise in Chicago. So this story doesn't make any sense. But the facts remain is your brother lived on the 29th floor. His neighbor, Garrett Smith, a middle-aged white man, also lived on the 29th floor. But your brother was murdered on the 48th floor. And in that, he was murdered on the 48th floor. Is that the floor of amenities or anything? Is there any correlation to why he was on the 48th floor, or was he running from Mr. Smith?
I didn't know. That's one of the answers that we're trying to find out.
Wow, this doesn't make a lot of there's a lot of gray areas in this particular situation. I hope that you all definitely get the answers that you need. As you said, this is an ongoing investigation. Based on the information that you currently have right now, do you believe that this was racially motivated? Was this a hate crime? Like, what do you know potentially of this?
We don't know. That's why we're just seeking answers.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned before, I am absolutely sorry that this happened. Your brother's legacy is definitely in great hands with the two of you. And if you guys are tuned in, you all should make sure that you go to the GoFundMe /FFEEC9D2 to support the movement. Also, you can follow this entire situation on Instagram, Justice for Abnerd. I am Madam President. This is what's important. What's important is we get justice. Black men do not, white men do not get the opportunity to kill Black men and get away with it. So I just want to ask you one more question about Garrett Smith. Was he arrested? He wasn't charged with murder, manslaughter, or anything of that nature?
So from the police report, they stated my brother, it was first degree murder? It was a homicide. But they did
detain.
They detained Garrett Smith, and they had him in for questioning. However, like, you know, they have the 48-hour rule. If they don't charge you, then you're released. So we do know that he did seek out an attorney. I don't know if that aided in him being released, but yeah, that's the story right there.
Wow. Okay. So we don't have another court date. We don't have an ongoing legal battle that's happening between him and the city for being an actual murderer. So he's just free to go. He was in jail for a couple of days and he's out.
But from what the detective said, it's still ongoing. So, I don't know, a couple days or a couple weeks, he might get charged. We just don't know. But that's what we're hoping for him to get charged, because our brother didn't deserve this.
Absolutely.
No one deserves this. Unarmed person getting murdered for what?
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement with you. I send my deepest condolences to you and your family. I'm letting everyone know. Is there anything that you want people to know? Anything that you want people to do? This is your moment to let them know.
Well, if anyone could give, any monetary contributions, that will definitely be extremely helpful, because this has been extremely difficult on us as a family, emotionally, physically, financially. So that would definitely help. If you can also, follow the page for any updates. That's the best point of contact for us to be able to, either communicate either with the community or whoever else wants frequent updates. That's the best way. Is through our social media.
Absolutely. And as you know, you guys, I'm here. So you guys get more updates. You need more information to be passed on. Feel free to connect anytime, because what's more important, it's getting the justice that needs to happen in this country. We don't want this to be a consistency. It can't happen. So I really appreciate you all being with me on today. And I look forward to knowing what's happening step by step, as frequent as possible. And I look forward to running this as many eyes and ears. You guys share this interview. Let people know that a beautiful Black man was murdered without justice, without cause, and it is not acceptable. In our community, I like to say that we get in an uproar when things like this happen, as we should. But we have to continue to put this fight in the forefront. Like this doesn't get put by the wayside. And thank you guys for being here. I want to see this go far, and I'm hoping that justice is served. And your brother's legacy is in great hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.